Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, the Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, visit www.indianasfinest.com. We want to thank the man behind the camera that puts us on YouTube each and every week. Tom Trial does incredible work. If you've never been to the Indiana State Police YouTube channel, check it out. Lots of really, really cool stuff there. And that's all thanks to the efforts of Mr. Tom Trial. I want to thank Network Indiana and Radio 1, Eddie Garrison, putting us on the radio across the great state of Indiana. Thank you very much for our partnership with them. And let's get started here. We've got a great show. Our guest is the Executive Director for the Central Indiana Police Foundation, Lisa Rollings. Lisa, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So a lot of people maybe have no idea, have never heard of the Central Indiana Police Foundation because you're fairly new, but I'd like to kind of take it back to the beginning because the evolution of your foundation has been really incredible. But I want to start, I kind of remember a story about how you kind of had this idea. You had an encounter with a police officer and you thought, I need to help.
Yeah. So I had been in business development for a CPA firm for about 5 years and loved the company, but was just really ready for a change. And I remember thinking, I want to do something nonprofit, but where's my passion, right? I wasn't sure what direction to go. And around that time, I had a car accident where a young man hit me and my car was totaled. And the funny part is I had a blueberry shake that was strung all over the car, all over me. And I am just sitting there crying, and the airbags had gone off, and the police officers were there taking care of me, and the EMTs were there, and I was in the ambulance, and it just was a real epiphany for me. I have not had really much interaction with police, didn't have police in my family, except for a speeding ticket, which I deserved. And so it just was a real epiphany to me about what our first responders are doing for us and some of the things they see on a daily basis. And I just remember being really touched specifically by one of the Greenwood police officers. I actually reached out, found out how I could write him a note, and I wrote him a note and thanked him for his care for me that day. And so then when this position came across my way, I thought, I want to do this. I want to support our officers. I want to be able to do what I can to help them. And so, voila, 5.5 years later.
Yeah.
So,
and it's cool because kind of what started as an idea has now branched into almost 3 separate foundations within one. You guys do several different things for police officers in Central Indiana and their families, but kind of talk about each avenue that you guys have.
I kind of call them pillars of how the foundation is established.
Sure.
One is our Code 1 Fund, which is where we support officers who've been sick, or who have died in the line of duty, or been catastrophically injured in the line of duty. And so I know you were at the breakfast, and we kind of showed a picture of one of our officers from Fishers who was paralyzed.
Yeah.
So we were able to walk beside his family, help do fundraisers, help receive some grant money to help him with his physical therapy, etc. So the Code 1 Fund is focusing directly on an officer or cancer who needs help, or a spouse of that officer.
Yeah.
We have the Behind the Line, which is where we walk beside police departments and serving communities, bringing officers and children and other community members together in a positive interaction. And so a lot of those programming tends to focus on children, especially children from environments that may not have a positive feeling about an officer. So we like to bring them together, whether it's through a daycare center or bring in the Mounted Patrol within the city of Indianapolis or the National Night Out. We like to support those events in creating positive relationships. And then finally, Invest in Blue. And that's where we provide what we're known for is our medical trauma kits. We've provided bulletproof vests for departments that maybe they were out of budget and needed those vests. We've provided training and anything related to leadership, where an officer can learn leadership skills to be a better commander or sergeant over the team of people that they manage.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff in there. And I can tell you that one of the hardest things that police officers find is asking for help. And it's not something that comes natural to us because oftentimes we're the ones offering the help or there in those people's moments of need. But what's really cool is anytime that I issue a news release about a trooper being hurt or injured or involved in a crash, within minutes my phone's ringing, or a text from Lisa that just says, hey, does that trooper need anything? Let them know we're here. Let them know that we can help. Whatever it is, maybe they need financial assistance, maybe they need fundraising assistance, or maybe they just need a ride to the doctor, right? So that's what the Central Indiana Police Foundation is doing for police officers throughout Central Indiana and beyond. And so some really, really incredible people come together and put a lot of money. We just did a fundraiser, and the amount of money that people just willingly wrote checks for, business owners, private individuals throughout Central Indiana to help this foundation was absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, I just ran a report yesterday, as a matter of fact, and so we have received to date $371,000 from that fundraiser, and typically it continues to come in for a few more weeks after the event. So
that's incredible.
That's the most we've ever brought in, and I just think that's a testament that people do support law enforcement. Sometimes they don't know how to support officers, and this is a great way to do that through the Police Foundation, because we are intimately involved in relationship. I shouldn't say intimate. That's the wrong term.
I understand.
We are on the front line with the departments and the officers. We know them personally, and they're not afraid usually to come to us and ask when they do need help. And so that's why funding us can help get needs met that otherwise a community member, a citizen member wouldn't understand or know about. So,
and it's just incredible. And what we find is some of these smaller departments throughout Central Indiana are working under really tight budgets.
Yeah.
And you mentioned bulletproof vests, and that seems like something that should be and would be a priority.
Yeah.
And what people may not know is that our vests expire. They have a shelf life, and it's only a few years, and they're kind of expensive. And so when you talk about that recurring cost, you never want to push that aside, but also there's other priorities. And so that's when the Central Indiana Police Foundation can step in and say, hey, let us buy a couple of the vests or all the vests this time and help that budget along. And in the meantime, you're potentially saving someone's life.
Yeah. Or, we help set up fundraisers and kind of work with the department on how to fundraise as well. So maybe we'll offer, 5 of the 10 vests, but then we'll help them set up a fund to receive tax-deductible donations for the remainder of the vests that they need. So, we do a lot of that. We try to maximize our money that we receive, right? Use our funds to help raise funds and that type of thing, too.
Talk a little bit about the trauma kits. And I have one here in front of me, and I've been issued this one, and I carry it in my car every single day that I go to work, and it's always there. And maybe you just figured out that there was a need for a small trauma kit. Like most of us are issued first aid kits, and they have things to kind of deal with general injuries.
Yeah.
But this is more specific to severe trauma.
Yeah, definitely. So there was a lot of thought. Of course, this started before I started with the foundation, but there was a lot of thought put in this little kit.
Yeah.
From the size of it, number one being the size of about a football, so that it can be thrown from somebody getting into their car, throwing it to the gentleman or woman who is treating the injured person. And then the contents of the kit are all related to stopping the bleeding. Yeah. I know you know this, but for our citizens or others reaching out or listening, to stop, when there is a trauma and there's a lot of blood, the more blood that they bleed out, they can bleed out very quickly. Yeah. And it takes time for an EMT to get on scene. So if our officer has that kit, they're the first to arrive, which is often the case, then they can stop bleeding or slow bleeding with the items in that kit. So when the EMT gets there, then they can take over. And this is literally saving people's lives, literally.
It absolutely is. And we talk about simple things like tourniquets. And I can tell you that we've always been aware of tourniquets as police officers, but 20 years ago when I became a police officer, it wasn't a thing that we carried with us. Now I carry one on my belt every day because we've learned the value in it. And these trauma kits are not necessarily only for us to respond to those emergencies. It could be for myself. Absolutely. I could be going into an active shooter situation, and when I grab my rifle and my extra vest, and I can cramp this on my belt. I can grab
Yeah.
it. I can carry this with me. And if I receive a gunshot wound, I'm trained to treat myself with everything that's in this bag.
Absolutely. And that's really why the originally they were designed for officers to use on officers.
Yeah.
However, officers are using them more regularly on citizens
Sure.
than they are other officers. So, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I know even during the riots, there's a story about a group of young people throwing frozen water bottles at the officers, screaming at them, telling them horrible things. And then right around that time, a young woman kicked in a glass plate window, and it literally severed her main artery in her leg. So then at that time, what do? They turn to the officers and they ask for help, medical treatment.
Yeah.
The officer brought his trauma kit and saved that young woman's life. I don't have privy to who that woman is, but I would love to meet her and say, what do you think about officers now?
Yeah, that's a great story and a perfect example of, regardless of how people feel about us, we're going to answer the call for help.
Yes, that's what you do, and that's
and that's where these are going to come in handy. And so there's a lot of cost to these, actually. I believe they're around $100 a piece.
Yeah, and it depends on how many we order, but we say around 100, and that gives us a tiny bit of padding for shipping and things like that. But so we have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 8 years since we've been doing them.
And I'm proud to say that CIPF has equipped every Indiana State Trooper with one of these, and that's a big deal because our troopers work in very rural areas where EMS and help could be 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
And for us to have the equipment readily available, certainly.
Shout out to Lucas Oil Products, who has silently come along as a partner for us to support you all. And they are the ones that helped us finalize the last few kits we needed for you. I think 180.
Great.
To finish off all Indiana State Police officers throughout the entire state having one of those kits. So kudos to Lucas Oil for that.
Very cool. And you know what's incredible is the people that, like you said, they don't know how to help. And maybe they've been blessed with financial means to be able to help.
Yeah.
But they don't know where to write that check.
Yeah.
How do people donate to CIPF?
Yes, so they can go online at CIPF for the Central Indiana Police Foundation, CIPF.foundation, and donate. And there's actually several different funds. So if they have a preference on what they want their money to go towards, we honor every request like that. And those funds are set aside for whatever they request. Or if they want to just give to the general fund, they can do that. And they can always write a check and send it to us. And our address at the 1525 Shelby Street, Indianapolis, 46203, Central Indiana Police Foundation, 1525 Shelby Street, 46203.
Great. And no donation is too small.
Nope.
Oftentimes somebody receives help from law enforcement. They feel compelled to offer a donation or a tip or whatever.
And we get a lot of those with little notes.
Even if they don't have the money, they could send you the note. Then that's what's great.
They do. Yes, I get lots of that.
And I'll tell you, that means more to us in law enforcement than any amount of money, is just when somebody takes the time to recognize an effort that we made going out of our way to make an effort for them.
Yeah.
And they just say thank you. It means so much.
And, I'll tell you, when we do have an officer who's killed in the line of duty, we will also receive notes and beautiful cards, handwritten cards. And so we always pull those aside and save those and collect those for the families. And so usually I end up taking a box full for the families of officers that have been killed in the line of duty. So it's a really sweet, precious thing, and the families really value those. That means a lot to them.
Yeah, and other things you guys do behind the scenes with line of duty deaths, which is something that none of us want to experience being a part of, is T-shirt sales and fundraising for the family. Every single penny of that goes back to the family. The CIPF isn't taking a cut of that for profit.
Correct.
Every penny goes to the family. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we, it's very easy for us. We're prepared to step into that role, and we've also set up trusts for the children of the officers that have been slain, and just do a lot of cool things. I mean, anything that we can be a resource, way we can be a resource for the family, we try to do that.
And we certainly appreciate you. And so a lot of people come together for CIPF. You have a board of directors that kind of vote on things, and
make sure we're doing the good, staying on task, staying on mission, doing the right thing.
And no shortage of volunteers. When you pack, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to pack these.
Yep,
you get all of this stuff individually. You have to put all these together. And so it's really cool to see the school program step up and help, and different people across the state that say, hey, I want to do something. Maybe just giving your time is all that we need.
We do have a volunteer list. So every time we have a need, we'll email or call folks out and say, hey, we need a need for this if you're available. And so periodically, that happens 3 to 4 times a year at least. So folks can volunteer and help us out.
Well, we want to thank our guest, Lisa Rollings, the Executive Director for Central Indiana Police Foundation. Steps up in a big way every single time there's a need in law enforcement here in Central Indiana, and they continue to expand that geographic area outside of the city, and certainly a lot of beneficiaries. Central Indiana Police Foundation, if you want to donate, just Google that. Take you straight to their website. All the information will be there. Everybody, take care. Thank you for tuning in. Drive safe and buckle up. We will see you next time.